Get your act together. We're on Caribbean Country 93.5. And, of course, when I have Ricky Evangelista here, I could go over and get a cup of coffee, a donut, and then come back in any event. Well, we couldn't afford you anyway. Ricky, a pleasant good morning. Why don't you get yourself situated there? I mean,
sure. Thank you very much.
You're always coming in late.
Is the plane ready to take off?
Mr. Tricoche is always on time.
It's the military in him.
Absolutely. He could run this show.
There you go.
In the event, let's talk about what you're trying to accomplish this morning. And again, what we always do out there is confuse you with the facts. And what I'm trying to do is make sure you make your life a little bit easier. And one of the primary departments is DLCA, which really is impacting us tremendously, whether it's food prices, whether it is gasoline prices, or maybe they found out what's going on with propane. And then the other issue is obviously when the shops are open and the businesses are open. It's my understanding we got somebody from the Department of Health to discuss that. So, Ricky, what would you like to do to start off with?
Sure. First of all, good morning, Senator Redfield. Once again, allowing DLCA to come on your show. I'd like to say good morning, first of all, to the DLCA staff, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, and Water Island, if you're there.
Right.
Contrary to what some persons may think, DLCA has actually never closed. We relocated our employees to work remotely from their home.
Right.
They have cell phones. So if you have any licensing issues, please feel free to contact our phone numbers as you know them, and we'll give you those numbers so that you can get the service that you need. And if for whatever reason you cannot get through, you can always use the scam line, the 771-7226 or the 727-7226. We're here issuing licenses, we're receiving complaints, and we're here to operate. So good morning to the diligent working staff, and most importantly, good morning to your listening audience.
Good, and I want to thank you
locally
again.
here as well as those virtually, and Senator Redfield and I thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your ears and your eyes when you watch us tonight later on Facebook Live.
Right.
And, without you, we would not be here. So thank you very much on behalf of Senator Redfield.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you. It does work, everybody. I did everything online with the business license, and it did work. And so if Holland can do it, anybody can do it. So,
and let's tell the truth, Senator Redfield. It worked so well, Senator Redfield didn't even expect to receive his business license in his email, but it actually went to his junk mail. So we excuse him because he called me and he said, Ricky, come on. Well,
wait a minute. I have my email set to turn yours into junk, okay? But I had to switch
there
it
we go,
back
ladies
off,
and gentlemen.
Okay?
DLCA's email.
No, the only thing I had to do is print it, and we did, and we printed it on a glossy, whatever it is. It's very, very nice looking. It's top notch. All right, so where would you like to start at this point?
First of all, I'd like to share with your listening audience that today what I'd like to do is speak about the issues that directly are worked through DLCA,
right, and
then also speak about those issues that people think work directly through DLCA, but in fact are in collaboration with the incident commander for the Department of Health for this particular public health emergency through the Department of Health for COVID-19, specifically because, as you know, June 1st is open our doors, and the restaurants are allowed to permit persons to eat, the bars are allowed persons to congregate, but everything done within reason so we can continue to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. So we'll bring that up in the second half hour. We actually have Deputy Commissioner Charles to assist with that process because, for those of you who don't know, we actually only enforce those guidelines as presented to us by the Department of Health. And in fairness to the community, you also always have those persons who think they're Senator Redfield and they're telling people what should they do, but Senator Redfield calls sometimes his sources. So we're actually going to bring you the facts from Department of Health. All right. So DLCA, we are the face. However, we are the ones who actually react to any fines or citations that are issued to you as a business because you've violated the COVID-19 directives from the Department of Health. So we have the hearings, the informal conferences to get you straightened out. But I thought it was fair for the business community as well as the listening audience who venture to these businesses, because if you do not assist the businesses close, they suffer, their revenue suffers. As you know, since March 13th, many businesses have been closed. And it's only recently that they've started to open. Thank you, restaurants who have continued to operate via takeout only. It was difficult, but it helped get people out of their homes when they were cooped up, to being safe at home and safer at home. So
Sure.
I hope that the revenue will pick up. I encourage persons to visit the restaurants. And if you're still leery, as Department of Health will tell you, many, if not all, the restaurants who are only fine dining, they're still offering takeout.
Absolutely.
So, Holland, when you and your date don't want to associate with the rest of the community, just do takeout.
All right, let me ask you, has
Sure.
The application of business licenses reflected, again, a downturn, whatever is going on with reference to people back in business?
We were actually at 50% of revenues generated for business licenses right now.
Sure.
We have 6 months left as of April 30th in the fiscal year. So we're still on point, but we expect probably a 25 to 30% dip.
Right.
And that's either businesses who have decided to take a break or, unfortunately, businesses who can no longer exist. When the governor was doing his biweekly COVID-19 press conferences, he did mention that there were some businesses who were permitted to open, and unfortunately, they shared with us that they're no longer opening. So
Right.
COVID-19 has not only decimated lives, they've also decimated businesses.
Sure.
And it may not have been a direct result of COVID-19, but COVID-19 was the final nail in the coffin.
Well, I think it's reflective, one, of his press conferences, and of course some of the interviews I have with the financial team. It is not looking that rosy. And
No,
again,
not at all.
You got to take a look at that. And let me ask you another pointed question regarding your enforcement. Have you, in fact, inflicted a penalty on anybody to date?
So this is where we're going to shift into the second half an hour, so
All
I'll
right,
give you
well.
a preview. The enforcement personnel of DLCA have actually been activated to be full-time enforcement persons with the VIPD after the state of the emergency order.
Right.
So they have a COVID-19 task force, and they go around and enforce the Department of Health directives. And yes, we have, in fact, levied fines of up to $1,000 per
Okay.
violation, whether it's no mask, no service,
Right.
whether it's violating the social gathering issue. And in collaboration with Department of Health, the citations can be issued, but health is key when it comes
Sure.
to actually closing the business pending the hearing with DLCA, because they are the only ones with the emergency power to shut down a business for a public health emergency.
Sure. I only asked you that even though we were going to shift in that area, you would be the one that would be having to either sanction or whatever any fine, and everybody has a right to appeal, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so-
But what I want to share with you is the business community
Correct.
who was actually sanctioned. They came in to the informal conferences. We haven't had any formal hearings yet.
Okay.
And the reason why they were informal conferences, the businesses have come in and they've actually made adjustments based on the recommendations of the
Good.
Department of Health.
Right.
Health concurred, and the fine was levied, and they agreed to the fine. And if they were unable to pay the fine at that point, they
Right.
insisted on a payment plan, and in fact, it was granted, and they reopened, and it was business as usual. So everybody, by and large, has been cooperative.
Okay.
Now, where you're going to start finding issues is now with the reopening of the bars and restaurants. Some folks think it's business as usual, and it's not business as usual.
There are people that think it's busy. Really. I want you to introduce me to some of them, okay?
No problem. They may
All
be
right.
your colleagues.
Right.
I don't know.
Who knows? In any event, why don't we shift gears at this time?
Sure.
Who do you want on
so
first?
what we're going to do is for DLCA, we're going to speak about consumer affairs, and then
Right.
we're going to speak about business licensing with Director Graham. So I brought here Director Tricoche,
Right.
who's going to speak about the
Yes.
consumer affairs and what we've been doing with COVID-19, and to give you an update on what's going on nationally and locally as it relates to the retail prices of food. Director Tricoche, my main man,
We're
let's
getting
go.
a little redundant, but I'll let you get away with that.
Okay.
Tricoche, go ahead.
Good morning, Senator Redfield.
Morning,
good morning
sir.
to the listening audience, residents of the Virgin Islands, and good morning to the DLCA staff.
Well, you want me to ask you a question?
Yes.
What's going on? Talk to me about your challenges. And again, from the last time we talked, you also have a dual role. You're also working on the cannabis, I believe, legislation and stuff, right?
And if I make
So-
an edit at this point, Senator Redfield,
Yeah.
I noticed that when you're speaking to me and then you turn to Tricoche, your tone of voice changes. What are you trying to?
Well, because
emulate?
he scares me.
Oh, okay, all right.
You
Just
don't
checking.
scare me.
Okay,
Because
all right.
I wouldn't want to run into him by any event. So
All right.
let's go. So go right ahead. You obviously have been challenged, and give me some discussion on where we are at this point with reference to the last interview I had with you.
One of the things that we spoke about during the last interview was fuel prices. So I'm going to start there.
Okay, good.
Right. We're seeing a shift nationally in fuel prices as we're going through the pandemic.
Right.
And there's been a slight raise in our wholesale prices. We're seeing that coming through Gulf oil pricing at Limetree.
Sure.
And there's going to be a slight increase, if any, and I say if any, because in conversations that we've had with the retailers, they've said that they would not be raising their prices.
So they're absorbing it.
They're going to absorb it.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But there's been just a little bit of a shift. We're seeing that nationally, and hopefully we won't see that here. What we're doing is we're continuing to have those conversations and monitor what's happening globally in the oil market, to make sure that the dip that we saw after we had those initial conversations, that it continues to be fair for the people of the Virgin Islands.
So the spread is kind of the same as it was before, other than the fact that, well, they have absorbed this. So what is the spread now, roughly, with the new pricing? $1 and something?
For some places, some retailers, because it's not the same across.
Right.
I'm going to be fair. Anywhere between 70 cents and maybe $1.10.
All right, so you've made some accomplishment. I can see that, number one.
And we hope to keep it that way.
Becoming sensitized. I see another thing, and I'm going to kind of shift a little bit, the same subject, but they were requesting a permit for a gas station, I think on St. John or St. Thomas, and it was denied by the legislature. So there seems to be a sensitivity, again, to the amount of gas stations we have.
That has been an ongoing conversation. It's one that internally we've had, and we've had with other departments as well. We just want to make sure that what we're seeing in terms of the amount of retailers is fair. We want everyone to run their business. We want everybody to have a business. But at the same time, we don't want to saturate the market, because those existing retailers, there's only so many people in the Virgin Islands. There's only so many cars. So the more gas stations that we have, then those existing gas stations won't make the profit that they need, and in turn, they will see that reflected.
Yeah,
in the
that
gas
always
prices.
has been the argument, again, on this thing. Are we supposed to artificially support a market? In other words, you have a certain point at which you don't need more gas stations. And I'm sure if you saw them reflect, instead of a 70-cent spread, maybe a 50 or a 40-cent spread, I mean, we shouldn't be subsidizing a system which says when you have more people in the market, that means that the prices should go down, right? As far as I'm concerned.
That is a healthy argument. I'm going to say, though.
Where is the unhealthy part of it?
Because that makes sense.
Oh, sorry.
It is a completely healthy
Thank you.
argument, because that makes sense.
Well,
Of
it
course,
bothers you guys. It has to bother you guys when you see this, because you're saying to yourself, again, the normal free market, supply and demand, market share and stuff like that, all that stuff is thrown out the window.
And if I may chime in, Senator
Please.
Redfield, what's really upsetting is, when we first started our investigation, persons were claiming, well, I need this spread and this spread.
Right.
Now that the prices are increasing at the rack and they're not moving, this behooves the point that you need this spread. So, in fact, who are you fooling? So, for you fuel retailers who are listening, we are paying close attention to the fact that you're not moving. The rack rate is increasing, when in fact we had the dialogue and said, be straight up honest with us.
Right.
Let's look at your paperwork. Tell us what spread you need to make it, so that when the price at the rack goes up, you go up. When the price decreases, it decreases. So, it's apples and oranges at this point, Senator.
Well, where you're seeing the margin, I think, again, if you take a look at the rack price, is not on the wholesale, it's on the retail. That spread on the retail. I can't tell you how much it costs to manufacture a product or so on and so forth. But historically, again, in the Virgin Islands, and normally what they do is they blame, again, the rack folks. They have no grounds to blame them for anything.
No, I mean,
a lack of responsibility and a compassion for a community they operate in.
The fuel retailers, as anyone else, has fixed costs. But the point is that, when everyone is holding, then you start to say, and wonder, well, what's going on? So DLCA is not asleep. We're paying attention, and it's an issue that we are going to continue to investigate.
Right. And again, it's another issue if you take a look at public policy. And again, you and I, we've all in here discussed this. That is established in the legislature. And again, the idea, other than in an emergency price controls, you can't do anything about it other than educate the public to shop at the lowest price they can get for fuel or food, right?
Correct. And DLC continues to share that message. Look at your signs on each retailer to determine who's the most affordable gas at this point.
Sure.
And support that station, and that station shall continue to support you.
Right. And you've been publicizing that, I believe.
We have been.
Yeah,
we have been.
Right. Okay.
So, Senator Rayfield, are you wondering why the cost of a ribeye went up per pound at the supermarket?
No, I've been eating ribeye lately.
Oh, okay.
And I'm eating jam. I'm drinking.
You're eating peanut butter and jelly?
And again, yes.
Okay. Tricoche, if
I'm sorry your commissioner rudely interrupted you, sir. Okay.
He complains
constantly
about that
does
too,
this. Well, he should.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't have to keep it in-house. He can bring it right to the public.
Sure. I'm in the corner now.
All right. Okay. Sir, continue with your intelligent approach to this issue.
Throwing shade now.
Pretty hard. When you get him to smile, that's out of character. You know what I mean? Every night he's All right, sir, go ahead.
The bottom line with fuel prices
Right.
is that we're not taking our foot off the gas.
Okay.
We've seen some positive
That's a pun.
changes, and we're going to continue to monitor. We're going to continue to be vigilant. And so we're going to do our part.
Can I stay on fuel as well, as we had a discussion of propane? And again, it was something that you folks are going to look into at this point. We're going to take a break. You're on Caribbean Country 93.5.